not maintained at a certain spending level from year to year. After accounting for this portion of spending, the Ohio legislature and I have a much smaller pool of resources to direct toward other worthy programs that will move our state forward. A cut of $3.2 billion from that more limited pool of $10.4 billion is approximately 31% of our uncommitted balance. And remember, this is after we have already reduced state spending by nearly $2 billion. These are the circumstances facing the state legislature, which is responsible for sending me a balanced budget before June the 30th, which is just 11 days away. We must recognize the unprecedented nature of this challenge and, together with the Joint House-Senate Conference Committee, take unprecedented action in response. That's why I have chosen to break with tradition in order to put forth a balanced budget framework during the conference process. Based on the new revenue projections, this framework is fiscally responsible and sustainable. It significantly resizes state government in line with this shrinking economy. It prioritizes extremely limited resources toward critical health and safety services to provide for the greatest number of vulnerable Ohioans during this difficult time. And, perhaps most important, this framework positions Ohio for the job creation needed for near-term recovery and for long-term economic growth after the recovery. We have a shared responsibility to make the decisions necessary to maintain a balanced budget without crippling the state's growth and economic progress. So, my balanced budget framework calls for continued investments in a reformed system of education, which I believe is the key to Ohio's economic revival. Our schools must provide a world-class education for every child and teach the critical thinking and problem-solving skills that businesses tell us that they look for in the people they hire. Our system of education does not do this now, and delaying is not an option. So this is my balanced budget framework. First, the framework suggests state government spending cuts and other reductions of more than $2.43 billion. These will be painful cuts. They represent a strong majority of the $3.2 billion budget gap. I will not sugarcoat what this will mean in real terms. We will see additional staff reductions, further shrinking the state government's workforce. Worthwhile and critical programs and services will be reduced or suspended to reprioritize limited resources to help the maximum number of Ohioans. I do not believe that we can, in good conscience, make cuts that would eliminate the essential safety net services that Ohioans need now more than ever. So in order to balance the budget, we must reduce services that Ohioans have needed and received in the past, but the state can no longer continue to provide. But in reducing these services, we must work to minimize the impact on our most vulnerable, especially our children, the elderly, and the disabled. Second, we must continue to prioritize education for economic growth. The jobs of the future will go where world-class schools produce highly trained, highly skilled workers. Postponing education reform will only hold Ohio back. Though $2 billion has already been reduced from the state budget, as I've said, over the last 2 years, we have worked to protect both elementary and secondary school funding and higher education support. And we have been successful. Ohio is one of the very few states that have not already reduced direct foundation support for schools. And we have maintained a 2-year tuition freeze in the midst of this recession. While today's circumstances require that administration lines in education absorb cuts in line with other state agencies and awarded programs, my framework does not cut the state's share of elementary and secondary foundation funding. In addition, we will continue a tuition freeze at all University System of Ohio campuses for a 3rd year and take the first critical steps toward the establishment of a modern K-12 education system that will better prepare Ohio students for the jobs of the future.